The Canadian Children's Book Centre presents Accessibook.
The Meg and Greg series is a decodable book series specifically written to help kids who are learning to read, and especially kids who have the added challenge of dyslexia. These books feature multiple levels of text designed for a shared reading experience. Adult or more experienced readers pair up with a child to read these stories together. Each story introduces readers to a new sound, and each book in the series builds on the previous one. Let's hear from one of the authors, Rowena Rae, about what makes these books so special.
My name is Rowena Rae, and I'm one of the co-authors of the Meg and Greg books, which are decodable books for emerging readers. My co-author is my sister, Elspeth Rae.
How did you get the idea for the Meg and Greg series?
My sister Elspeth is a literacy teacher, and she specializes in teaching children with difficulties learning how to read, often because they have dyslexia or another language learning difficulty. And several years ago, she was trying to find books that she could use with her students for them to practice reading, but that were at the right reading level for them and had interesting and engaging stories for them. She tried using different phonics readers and decodable books, but the problem was often there were words that her students couldn't yet master, couldn't yet read. So she decided after a few years of struggling to find something that the only solution would be to write her own stories. So she asked me if I would like to team up with her.
What makes a decodable book different from other books?
So a decodable book is one that contains stories or information for a child who's learning how to read, but it only contains words with the spellings and the sounds that they've learned up until that point. So sometimes decodable books can feel a little bit dry or boring because the words available to the writer are fairly limited for a child who's at an early or fairly beginning level of reading. So to try and get around that with our books, with our Meg and Greg books, Elspeth and I took a little twist to how we wrote the books, and we made them for shared reading. So there are actually 2 reading levels in these books. And on one side of each spread is text for a more confident reader, the buddy reader, to read. And on the other side is the highly controlled text for the child who's learning to read. So this was our way of being able to create stories that were interesting and engaging for a child of a slightly older than typical learning reader age, so somebody who was 8, 9, 10 years old, but still being able to have content that they could read, that they could master, and practice their reading, and also practice becoming more confident at reading.
How does it feel to know your books are impacting readers across the country?
It feels amazing to know that there are children who are enjoying our stories, who are finding some success at reading and wanting to read, building some confidence and building their reading skills because they're reading stories that we created and we wrote. It's actually a really, really amazing feeling. We also hear a lot from parents and teachers, but some of the most memorable messages we get are from parents who write to us and say, my child wasn't able to read a book or had no interest in reading a book at all, and they are now excited to sit down and read the Meg and Greg story with us at home. So it's just wonderful, and thank you very much for reading and loving our books.
The team at Orca Book Publishers have put care into creating a fun and engaging reading experience for emerging readers, including appealing comic-style illustrations, stories with short chapters, and plenty of humor. This series proves that reading is more fun with a friend. Here's a reading from the latest Meg and Greg book.
Meg stood at the railing of the ferry boat as it approached Stardust Island. We're almost there, Greg. Stop reading your book. Greg didn't look up. Let me finish this chapter. Detective Smart is solving the case. Meg grinned. Did your cousin Martha get a dog? Greg looked up. What? Oh, yes, a new puppy named Scarlet. I see them, but not your Aunt Carmen, Meg said. My aunt is probably at the farmer's market. She has a jewelry stall, Greg said. Meg smiled. I love farmer's markets. Greg rubbed his tummy. Me too. I love all the yummy treats for sale.
On the dock, Martha gave Greg a big hug. Hi Meg, this is Scarlet. Hi Martha. I'm so glad you could come with Greg to visit us. Let's go to the market and get lunch.
Find a buddy and enjoy reading the Meg and Greg series together. Happy reading!
Accessible books, so that all kids can discover the joy of reading.